Okay, so here we go. This one, we're going to be tackling the graph editor. So here is our object, right? This is our really dodgy bouncing ball, and it's beautiful. And we just have one drawing, okay? But first thing, before we add more stop motion drawings, let's see how much we can milk this at an object level just to improve basically that bouncing ball motion. So we can see here, it's like 12 frames, right? So I'm just going to drag down here, right down on the timeline. I'm just going to drag it down to 12. Okay, so we can see there, up and down, up and down. So a really good shortcut in here is Control Tab, and that is going to open up your graph editor. So N is going to open and close this side panel here. And so with our object, basically what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to look at all of this information. So we can see here, this is our object ID information, and this is our transformation information. And there's so much information in there that we don't really need to see it. And we can see here, like we really have to scale in here by control middle clicking and dragging. And so there's actually an easier way to do this. What we can do is we can just click on the normalize key, and that's just going to enable us to see this data really clearly. And there's also a lot of really unnecessary keyframes in this data set as well. So what we can do is we can just click the X key in here and we say clean channels. And basically it's going to clean all our channels, and then we can say clean keyframes, and it's going to make me a huge liar. Clean channels, clean keyframes. There you go, it works. And you can see it gets rid of all the keyframe data that's actually the same and that's really consistent, that has no value changing. It just removes that data. So now we're only having to deal with our x-axis, our z, and our y location. And the reality is we don't need our y location either. We just need our z, this blue axis, and our x-axis isn't moving. But what we can do is we can change that up. So let's just switch it from here and then to here. So now we've got this arcing action, okay? And now let's clean our keyframe data again. And we don't need our y. So we've only just got our x and our y data. And so we can see here, like it's starting to look like a bouncing ball. Let's just extend this out and move these keyframes across, grab, so G on the keyboard, and just grab them across, move them across, right? I'm just going to give us some more timeline space. So we can see that this is our graph editor, and what we're wanting to do is we're wanting to make this graph editor just perform a little bit nicer. So one thing we can do is we can lock our red channel because we're not using that right now. And what we can do is we can just say, if we hit V on the keyboard, we can say free this stuff up, and we can come through, we can drag these keyframes and select them at the bottom. And if we hold down Shift and we drag, is it Control Shift? Shift? Yeah, Shift. No, Control deselects, yeah. And what we can do is like deselect those two key handles and keyframe. And if we hit grab, we can just pull this up. So now when we look at our bounce, it feels a lot more like a bounce, right? And so what we want to do is we want to get back to that original, that original offset. So we're going to move this one here, grab this keyframe, Shift D, move that one there, and then we're going to come back here and just change these as well to match. There we go. All right, so we've got a fast bounce, and we just want to change our key. So let's lock our blue, unlock our red, and just drag that key out here. So now we've got it bouncing backwards and forwards. So we've got this nice little loop nice little loop happening. And let's get this all the way to, not that one, to this one here. Oh, and I've totally buggered it. Let's look at our X, grab these keys, and drag them. There we go. Okay, it's all fixed up. So basically, like, we can see that that's behaving more like a ball now, but our line art doesn't feel very complete. So if we go Control Tab and we come back into this view again, what we can do is we can add some stop motion keys now. So instead of redrawing this time, what we're going to do is we're just going to manipulate them. So I'm just going to come here and then I'm just going to manipulate this key. So I'm just going to manipulate it. I'm just going to push it there. So now we've got, it's going to make me a liar. So let's add a keyframe. Is it still going to make me a liar? No, it's not. We're okay. So we're coming up and then we want to get to our center point again. So I'm just going to duplicate it again so I don't have the same key. Or what we can do is we can just Shift D and then that way we've just got these nice cloned keys, right? So we know that all's going to be circular at the top. And then what we want to do is we want to get that motion of where it kind of feels like it's coming down, right? So we're going to add a key in here. So it gets to there and then it comes down. Then we're going to get our keyframe added in here. So it hits our normal ball shape. And then let's say, for example, it gets to here, and then I might just hold down Control and it's going to add one key to the left. And this one, I'm just going to cheat it. And I'm just going to squash it here. Squash. And then this one, I'm going to stretch it. I'm going to steal my keyframe from the beginning. I'm going to put it back there. So here we go. And I'm going to get it just before it hits the top. And then this one, we're going to add one more keyframe. And I'm just going to manipulate the drawing. And then we're going to switch this one over to our squash. There we go. And this one we might just change it up to a stretch, because the last one was our squash. So this is our squash and then this is our stretch. And we'll just push this one across, eh? And because we used the clone drawing, what we can do is we can just add a new drawing, just pull it back, and then just kind of pull this back into shape. And we want this to be our stretch. There we go. So this is just an example of how we're using object motion. And then we're also using the drawings at the object data level to switch out our object. So then that way we have object animation and then we have stop motion keyframe animation happening as well at the same time. So this is just like another way that we can deal with this animation. And the reality is like there's just so many different ways that we can deal with this animation. And like this is just another really cool method, right? Like just check this out really quickly. So I've just created some text, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come over here and I'm gonna switch its alignment to center. And here, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say, okay, I have this text and I wanna call it Blender. Because, you know, we're using Blender, right? And then I'm gonna add a keyframe. And then at frame 10, I'm gonna rewrite the word and I'm gonna create a new keyframe. So now we have Blender and we have stop motion. Not yet, we do. Let's go stop motion. Okay. And then at this one, we're going to create another keyframe and we're going to say revolution. Okay, cool. So we have Blender, stop motion, revolution. And basically that's all happening at the object ID level. You know, it's just so simple to do. And then if we want to add an animation to this, say we want to cut on the action or switch out switch this out on the motion, basically we can just add a keyframe, right? So let's just insert a keyframe here. So that's our object keyframe. That's what we want. This is what we want it to land on. Yep. Okay, so that's what we want it to land on. So this is where it's going to start. Then it's going to move left. So it's going to move left, and then it's going to move right. So we get this nice transition. And then we can just take those object keys and then we can delete and we can move them across. And if we want to space this out, we can space it out. And we'll just give ourselves some more time. So we've gone from bouncing ball to, you know, motion graphics. And we're just using object keys, and then we're switching out our data types, and we're using, we're using stop motion keyframes. Okay, so the next one we're going to take a little bit more of a deeper dive into how to do line art and how to do fills. So that one's a little bit tricky. So yeah, we'll tackle that next. Okay, thanks guys.